Hello, this is Dylan
and Jared and Austin
with the Dungeon Guy team. As we get ready to enter 2025, we wanted to acknowledge everything that we've worked on in this past year, all the achievements and the progress that's been made on the game. Let's get right into it and talk about all of the new features that have been added to Dungeon Guy this year. Jared?
Hey folks, this is Jared with the Dungeon Guy team, here to tell you about all the new features we came out with in 2024. One of our big updates this year was the UI Overhaul Edition, where we added all new art, menus, sound effects, and juice to our UI. This included an all-new settings menu and audio settings as well. You can now equip and unequip weapons and trade them with your friends. This also allows you to unequip weapons and go into fisticuffs mode where you can punch your enemies. We are now preserving player data between floors and runs. This should make your runs more succinct and feel better. There is now treasure, coins, and all new loot tables in the dungeon. Collecting coins will allow you to access the item shop and buy new items. You can now access the minimap by pressing down on the left stick. The minimap allows you to see what rooms you've been to and what enemies are left to kill. You can now resurrect your friends with the effigy item. You can find it in chests or in the item shop in the tavern. Holes no longer instant kill you. This was one of our most requested improvements when we were at conventions and did playtesting. You can now view when you level up on the HUD. Look for your player icon and you should see some special effects. As you can see, it's been a busy year for us here at Aga Pito Studios. Now I'm going to hand it off to Dylan to tell you all about the new content we came out with as well.
Okay, thank you so much, Jared. Now let's dive into some of the new content that's being added. Austin, our gameplay engineer, has been hard at work adding conjuration, necromancy, and invocation spells to the wizard's skill tree. These are different from the elemental spells that wizards so far have been used to casting. They have a greater focus on positioning and tactical response rather than raw blasting power. As part of our efforts to clean up Dungeon Guy's UI, we've added a great trove of ability icons to represent the spells and feats of combat that you can apply to any situation. We've already added not one, not two, but 3 new enemies, ranging from the fearsome Death Knight, controlled by the necromantic lich, as well as the fungi men, who will attack you with a new form of magic, or perhaps the wasp that will throw its spines at you from afar. Some of these enemies, as well as others, will inhabit the new caves environment, a wild and feral place that will grant you new adventuring opportunities. Aside from the new shop, there have been other improvements to the tavern, including a new puzzle that is meant to tutorialize some of the interactions you can make in the dungeon, as well as training dummies, which will allow you to practice your aim, as well as benchmark your damage across your run. Now that we've covered new features and content, there's a lot of bug fixes and optimization that we can talk about as well. And to do that, here's Austin.
Now I'm going to take us over the many bug fixes and optimizations that have happened over the last year. There have been many improvements to the dungeon generation, including a new mini-boss room. The AI has gotten more AI-y. Skeletons can now board moving platforms and chase you throughout the dungeon. Watch out! There's been some significant UI improvements throughout the year. Before, you needed to rely on player 1 to select specific UI elements. Now as player 2 through 4, you can select your own things. We've spent quite a bit of time rebalancing and tuning the melee weapons. Now they feel much more responsive. Did you notice random frame drops that happened during the gameplay? Well, that's because we were writing logs every time enemies attacks. Whoops! If one of your teammates died, there was an issue where you may have found that you could not control your character. Now that is no longer an issue when changing floors. There's been a lot of bug fixes and improvements around saving your progression when playing Dungeon Guy. These include, but are not limited to, resolutions around saving, quick starting, saving items between floors, ensuring that you have the correct HP when spawning in, and multiplayer continuity. Those are just a few of the more notable fixes to the game. However, there have been fixes in many categories, including HUD, audio, scene management, file I/O, camera, sprite sorting order, dash collisions, and controller input. And now back to Jared to talk about some of the cool things that we've done this year.
Thanks, Austin. We've done a lot of traveling this year, going to showcases and conventions around the USA.
It's Comic-Con!
To kick off the year, we went to Comic-Con in San Antonio, Texas. That was in March. It was such a great experience to meet a bunch of friendly Texans and to see the Alamo. Yeehaw! Next, we went to Midwest Gaming Classic in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. This event was absolutely massive and a great time. This event was an awesome experience because the booth was slammed the entire time and so many people played. In May, we entered the Start for Wayne pitch competition, and we won! Thank you to everyone involved. In June, we officially launched Steam Early Access. This was a huge milestone for us. Make sure to wishlist Dungeon Guy on Steam. In October, we traveled over to Columbus, Ohio, and attended the GDEX conference. Next, we went to MDEV in Madison, Wisconsin. This was in November. We entered a pinch competition there, but we lost. It's okay though, because we had a great time and met a lot of really cool people. Finally, in December, we went to Indie Indies. This was down in Indianapolis, Indiana. We brought it back home for the end of the year. Obviously, we're not done working on Dungeon Guy, and we have a lot of next steps. I'm gonna pass it off to Dylan here to tell you about those.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so stoked about all of the traveling that we've done. I've already mentioned some of the new additions for the cave environment, but in 2025 we hope to deliver it properly into players' hands. We've also mentioned a couple times the new wizard spells. The wizard has been work in progress for quite some time. The intention is for there to be 3 skill trees, and there's only been 1. However, very soon you'll be able to explore all of the new kinds of magic that the wizard is very capable of. And of course, with all of the new additions to loot and treasure, we want to make gear impactful on a mechanical level. So, in the next year, we hope to bring procedural equipment to Dungeon Guy. This will include new stats and buffs that will apply to your character. Well, thank you so much for watching. If you're still here, this was 2024 from the perspective of the Dungeon Guy development team here at Aga Pito Studios. So, make sure to wishlist Dungeon Guy on Steam, and of course, we'll be seeing you in 2025
In the dungeon!